Hello, 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 everybody. I'm doing double duty tonight. I have Instagram up there. Hi, all the Instagram people out there. Thank you for hopping on, and for all of you who always catch me on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. Thank you so much for doing that. I do appreciate it. And if you're here tonight, then you know I'm talking about how to handle microaggressions at work, right? So that is what we are doing tonight. And again, I'm going to be, kind of looking around and tending to some things. And I think I finally figured it out. I might get nervous because my nose starts to itch when I go live. So I think that's a nervous twitch. Well, it is what it is. Most of you that know me, I do have social anxiety, and maybe this is where it pops up at, is that my nose starts to twitch and itch. So if you can hear me, drop a 1 in the comments. I would appreciate that. And for those of you who are just meeting me for the first time, or for those of you on Instagram who hadn't seen me in a while, I'm Dr. Twanna Carter. And as a career coach, I empower stress busy women leaders who are tackling imposter syndrome and self-criticism and doubt. I do that by helping them to alleviate stress so that they can focus on excelling in their careers. And so again, if you're just joining me tonight, I'm talking about how to handle microaggressions at work, right? And so it is a thing, and most of you know that, I do coach a lot of Black women, and I say that, but I also like to say I coach a lot of Black and Hispanic women because they're both. And so most of us are no stranger to this microaggressions thing at work. And really anybody can experience it, and it's unpleasant and it's maddening sometimes. There's a whole host of emotions that we go through when we experience microaggressions at work. But if you're like me in my early career, way back when, let's see, I have some comments out there. Okay, so yes, I have a couple LinkedIn users that said they can hear me. Thank you for the feedback. I do appreciate that. I was saying way back once upon a time in my career, when I first started out, there are a lot of microaggressions. I'll be honest with you. We were not calling them microaggressions, but a lot of people were like me. So thank you, as well, LinkedIn user who let me know you can hear me as well. We didn't call them microaggressions, but a lot of people like me, I just swallowed stuff. I just took it. I think one of the memories that stands out the most for me was my first duty station, second lieutenant. I had my brand new shiny gold bars. Yeah, second lieutenant, got commissioned at my first duty station. And I met a couple of folks. I hadn't met my battalion commander yet. And so the call came in, she wants to meet with you now. And I was like, oh my God, my boots were dirty because I've been out. I was an engineer. So I've been out, moving earth from one place to the other. I like to call it moving dirt from one place to the other. My soldiers did not like that, but I did. So I felt real self-conscious about going in because I wasn't in a freshly pressed uniform. My boots weren't shine. There was dust and dirt on them and whatnot. So I go in and she's like, oh, I couldn't wait to, to meet you because such and such said you're such a great person. And I was like, okay, what's going on here? Yes. And so she was just exclaiming how she couldn't wait to meet me and how wonderful I was as a person. She didn't know me. I mean, for a minute I was like, this is cool. But then I had to think, what have I done? I'm in here, my uniform is not pressed, my boots are dirty. What have I done to get this much exclamation of how great I was, right? And then there were a couple of other officers that were like, oh, we just wanted to meet you. Everybody talked about you and how great you were. And so I'm getting a little suspicious, right? Because I haven't done anything. I haven't been there long enough to do anything. And then lo and behold, one of them said, yes, I had to meet you. They said you were so well-spoken and so articulate. I had to meet you for myself. Wait, what? And so, and I couldn't figure that out, right? I was like, this didn't make sense. And then I met one of my coworkers' wives, who's also from Alabama. I'm from Alabama, born in Anniston, raised quite a bit there. I'm an Army brat, but born in Anniston, Alabama. And so my coworker's wife was also from Alabama. She was very shy, extremely shy, right? And she had a stutter. And so I knew her in person, didn't have that problem, but out in front of people, she became very shy and just very nervous, and she stuttered. And it dawned on me that my impress somebody was because I didn't talk with a stutter and I could actually walk, talk, and chew gum at the same time. And and again, I'm telling this story and it gets me very upset. It still makes me angry because I can speak the King's English. That's an accomplishment. Like, what exactly were you expecting? So, for all you people out there, wonder what a microaggression is, and I'll go into what a microaggression is. But yes, that. Oh, you speak so well to be. If your sentence, that stem starts out in any shape, form, or fashion, microaggression. I speak how I speak, and I speak like I speak, and that's fine. Whether you speak with an accent, and I'm going to be the first to tell you, there's some sexy folks out there that I love to hear speak, and I know that some people catch flack because they speak the King's English. They speak, a Britain English or Nigerian English or whatever. So when you remark upon that, people and say, "Oh, you speak pretty good for it," that's a microaggression. So we're gonna we're gonna go there, right? Actually go there. So I have a question up there. Let me know by yes or no in the comments. Has anyone in the workplace ever told you they were impressed because you spoke so well? I've had that quite a bit. For the most part, I've lost a lot of my Southern drawl. I had a really thick Southern drawl. They put me through speech pathology and language, just all kinds of things to try to work me out of that Southern drawl. So I've gotten that a lot in my life, and it's not a compliment. Folks, it's not a compliment. It isn't. You don't sound like you're from Alabama. That's not a compliment. Okay. So we know that's one off the list. Let's check that one off the list. And I have some more here. Anyone, and if and we'll do for this a yes or no for the first question. Has someone ever told you they're impressed with how good you speak? Yeah. Put a yes or no in the comments. Second question. Has someone you work with ever remarked to you, "Oh, you're wearing loud colors again today"? Don't you think that's kind of loud? Those colors are like really loud, don't you think? Yeah, if you've had that one, drop colors in the comments and let us know if you've had that comment said to you. I guess I don't know. So I love my colors, I love my flowers, I love my oranges, I love my reds, I love them. And so I wear them. I didn't realize until probably within the last 5 or 6 years that was quote unquote problematic to some people, because I'm gonna wear the colors I want to, really don't care what you think. But yeah, that one I've had folks tell me that, as well as I've heard them say that to other folks, right? And then this is my favorite one. Yeah, we don't dress like that. You can just put on some and fill in the blank with whatever they think you should be dressing, as if you care what they think how you dress. But this is my favorite one, because I cannot tell you how many times people have told me how I should be dressing, because I got 3 degrees and I don't know how to dress. Oh no, I don't know. So so I have a link that uses this neon yellow. Yes, I love some yellow, and I love to pair it with black. It's just, I love pairing orange and black and yellow and black. It just sets it off. It's just, oh my gosh, I love those colors together. She said, I wore neon yellow. Yep. Yeah. And people think it's okay to remark, like, don't you think that's a little loud? Oh, you have on flowers again. Wow. Not a compliment. Not a compliment, right? And it's not a little shady way of saying, I don't like what you're wearing, you should wear something else. Unacceptable. And so we'll talk about, these are just some examples of things that people say that are microaggressions, right? I met a beautiful young lady in the mall, Pentagon City Malls, buying some lipstick. And she says, I did not know until I came to America that, wearing makeup every day, there was something wrong. And I wear red lipstick every day. And people said, they look at me like there's something wrong with that. Yeah, some folks have a hang up with this. Like all X people wear this or all X people wear that. Those are microaggressions that we deal with in the workplace. And over time, like, why am I talking about this? Because over time, microaggressions begin to wear. They begin to wear on you, right? And so I have Rosa Pink that just joined. Let's see, I'm going to do a wave up there. I'm trying to multitask, you guys. It's been a minute since I did Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn all together, and Twitter. I can't forget Twitter. But yeah, we're gonna make it work today. All right. So do me a favor. If you have not already done so, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to get my numbers up. So do subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that bell and give me a like or a thumbs up or a comment to let me know that you really enjoy these lives. And I'm here every Wednesday, by the way, right? Every Wednesday, 8:35 Eastern, 7:35 Central Time, and 5:35 Pacific Time. In a couple of minutes, because I got all these lights going on here, I'm going to have a fan. I'm just going to let you know. I'm going to have a fan in a couple of minutes. All right. So again, we're addressing how do we handle microaggressions in the workplace. And I got to tell you, when I got that comment, how well spoken I was and how pleased everybody was, I said nothing. I was infuriated, but I said nothing. I told you I was going to start fanning. I didn't say anything, and I didn't know how to say anything. I just know I felt the way about it, but I didn't know what to do. And I do have clients, and I've had clients who are Filipino, and I've had clients, like I said, that are Black, that are Hispanic. I have a lot of clients, Asian, and many of them, when they hear these stupid things and sometimes ignorant things, because people are not aware of what it sounds like, they don't know how to address that. And so I do want to give some tips here today to do that, right? And so again, we're talking about how to handle microaggressions in the workplace, because it happens. A lot of us, you've got the comments here. A lot of us have had to go through this, right? And so what is a racial bias, and we get a microaggression with it, right? And a microaggression, let me just start with saying, let's do the overt stuff and get that out of the way. Someone calling you the N word or the S word if you're Hispanic, or the H word if you're Jewish, those are overt racism. That's not a microaggression. That's just overtly, clearly racist. So most of us know that when we hear it, although some people claim they don't, but most people do know the overt stuff when they hear it. But the microaggressions are very subtle and yet damaging, discriminatory behaviors by people that over time they can deeply impact you. What do I mean by that? They can cause depression, they can cause anxiety, they cause frustration, they cause anger, right? They cause all of those things, and they affect your emotional well-being in a negative way, right? And especially when we allow it to just proliferate in the workplace, because if you say something, oh, you're such a snowflake, stop being so sensitive. This is a person that's not got to, experience all of these microaggressions, right? And let's start off also by understanding that trauma is cumulative, right? And a lot of us think, well, when we think trauma, we think car accident, plane wreck, train wreck, tornado, flood. But trauma can be very small, and it is still cumulative, and it's damaging over time. So whether it's a small trauma or a huge, gigantic trauma, first of all, what I say is traumatic for me is traumatic for me. What you say is traumatic for you is traumatic for you. And so when we talk about microaggressions at work being traumatic, they're little traumas experienced one after the other, after the other, after the other, and they do build up, right? And so we talk about, and I want to give you some definitions here. And Dr. Sue, I'm smiling because Brittany Hunter says, thank you for this. my concern combating microaggressions against management who are so well insulated and protected. Yes, yes. So, we're not going to solve the issue, but I'm going to tell you what you need to do to position yourself in a better space if you need to take it a step further, right? Not everybody will need to take it a step further, but if you do, we got some things here for that, right? And so Dr. Daryl Sue, who is a wonderful psychologist, I'm smiling because I remember when I took multiculturalism, I read one of his books back and forth, so know him well. And so thank you for that, Brittany. We'll definitely cover that here. So he says that microaggressions have two parts. I told you that they're these intentional or unintentional discriminatory ways that they're not overt, like calling someone the N-word, but they still are damaging and they're hurtful, right? And so he says that microaggressions have two parts, right? So one is the conscious communication of the initiator who said this thing. They said, "Oh, you speak well to be from Alabama." I've heard that before. So there's the first part is that conscious communication, and oftentimes people think they're complimenting you, and in their mindset and what they say, they believe the surface level communication is that's a compliment to you, right? And then that's the first part. The second part is that unconscious meta communication, and that message is microaggression. That's the message it sends, right? And so it is insulting. It's hurtful, right? It just is. And so one of the things that, we talk about when you address a microaggression, never address the person's intent. You will lose every single time if you address someone's intent, because people go, "That's not how I intended that. That's not how I meant it. Hold on a minute." And then they want to go off into this whole long thing about what they meant and how they meant it. It doesn't matter. And you're not addressing that. What you are addressing is your compliment that I speak well because I'm from Alabama is insulting, as if all Black people from Alabama are stupid, ignorant, and can't speak. The Montgomery incident to the side. We're not going to talk about that right now. But it is insulting to me. "Well, I didn't mean it that way, and that's not." And you don't go off on a tangent about what they meant. I am letting you know up front that when you said X, Y, Z, it was insulting to me. So it's unacceptable to say that to me. That is it. You stick to what you feel, because what you feel is true. What they intended for them is true, but we're not talking about their intentions. We're talking about how it made you feel, right? That's the biggest piece of this again. So let's do that again. Two parts of microaggressions. There's a conscious communication that the person said, whatever utterance they gave, they told you that they probably meant as a compliment. And some of them will say things that they know are hurtful and say, "Oh, I didn't mean it like that." They said it. That's part one. Part two is the message, the undertone, how you receive that message. That's the part you address, not what they intended. Who cares what they intended? It is how it hit you. And you have to say, when you said X, I felt Y, and that's unacceptable. And I'm a different person now in my 50s than I was in my 20s, but I do say that's unacceptable. This is unacceptable. So in no uncertain terms, a person knows unacceptable. Period. Doesn't matter what you meant, how you meant it, what your mama told you, what your daddy told you, what your auntie said. This is unacceptable. For me, it's unacceptable. Right? And that's important. And we'll talk about in a couple of minutes why. So if you have questions, go ahead and drop those. I'm answering questions as we go along, but that is how you do that, because I have clients that have sat in with me during my coaching sessions, just cried because there's so many microaggressions, but they're afraid to speak up, and or they don't know how. Or you have people like me. I have social anxiety. I'm an introvert. I'm conflict avoidance, and so it is tough when when you have anxiety, or you're an introvert, or you're a conflict avoidant. It's very tough to figure out, I know that's wrong, but what do I say? So, that is it. Understand two levels of communications, what they said, and they meant it as a compliment, doesn't really matter for you. There's an unconscious meta communication in that, it is insulting or it's discriminatory, right? And so Dr. Sue calls it micro interventions, right? Is what you're doing. So, and you don't have, it depends on who you are. Sometimes there are people who do not mind speaking up in the moment. You said it, you embarrassed me in front of everybody. I'm going to tell you why it's unacceptable right here now. If that is you, cool, do that professionally. Here's what you said. This is why it's insulting to me. It's unacceptable. Point blank. It's also okay for those of you out there that do have anxiety and you're not going to be that outspoken person in front of everybody. It's okay to pull that person to the side and have a chit chat with them, right? It's okay. I've had to do that with a couple of people. I've gotten angry when I heard it and I walked away to cool off so that when I addressed it, I was addressing the issue and not just because I was mad and ready to go to war, right? It's okay to do that. Walk away, cool down, collect your thoughts, think what you're going to say, tell the person, I want to have a meeting with you. I want to meet with you, sit down, talk to them. It's okay to do that, right? Because what you're doing when you say, hey, this is unacceptable for me. Here's what you said. It was insulting to me because this, that, the other, whatever you got to say. And here's why. What you're doing is making the invisible visible. Because sometimes people are not aware what they said was demeaning or hurtful or offensive. So you got to let them know it was demeaning, it was hurtful, it was discriminatory, right? And use that language and don't get off on I didn't mean it like that. And, everyone else says, and I thought it was okay to say. You're not even discussing that. For me, I'm letting you know, for me, it was insulting, it was discriminatory, it was demeaning. It is unacceptable to say this to me again. And, you don't, and I'm not a person who on an average day gets way up here, I can take my voice here, but I'm not easily angered. So you don't have to be angry to do this, but you do want to be firm. You want to be assertive. It's important to be assertive, right? That's so important. Right. And you want to, in what I'm told you to do, you're actually educating the perpetrator. And I want to caveat that with, it's not our job as people of color to tell white folks or whoever it is that's practicing microaggressions. It is not our job to train you. And so that's not why you're educating this person. You're educating them to let them know that they've insulted you, they demeaned you, or they've been discriminatory against you, right? Because I'm going to jump down to one already we're going to get to, and then you want to document that. That's why you're doing it. Not because it's our position, our responsibility as people of color to educate the masses. That's not why. Because if you need to take this further, you need to say, yes, I told you it was unacceptable. I told you what you said. I told you how I felt and how I perceived it. And I told you it was unacceptable. You're not going to speak to me in that manner. It's unacceptable. I told you that. So if they continue doing it and you're documenting, and it's so important you have to document these things. Because if you need to go to HR, and always remember HR is the manager's pet, the manager's, they're in the manager's corner. HR is in manager's corner. I want to say that again. HR is in the manager's corner. Okay. But when you talk about, why go to the HR in the first place? Because most companies have a protocol. In order to get here, you need to do this first, the second, that third, that fourth. And so most of the time, HR is in that line somewhere, unless there's an open door policy and you can go straight to the top. Most folks have a progression, they have like go here, go here, go here. But anytime you do this, understand that HR, the HR is there to protect management, not you as an employee. I'm just saying, that's just the way it is. Now, am I downing HR? No, there are some really great people in HR, and I've had someone pull me to the side and say, girl, look, here's what you need to know. Yes, so there are great HR people, but at the end of the day, their job is taking care of management, to be sure management is doing what they're supposed to and getting the right stuff. So just be aware of that. All right. And so again, I've jumped down to things that you need to do. I've told you what a microaggression is. I've told you the two parts, and I've given you some examples of how to address it, right? And so I know that Brittany had a comment over here. It's like, hey, my concern is if the management is the one doing the microaggressions, I don't, some of them are so well protected. What do I do? So you still go through these steps. You may not want to call management out in front of everybody. Maybe you do. That's a call on you, depending on the situation where you are. Okay. But you still do the same thing. Here's what you said. It is, hurtful, demeaning, discriminatory, whatever it is for you. Okay. And they'll probably go, oh, it's not where I meant it. I'm letting you know again. Here's what you said, what you did. This is why it's demeaning, it's hurtful, it's discriminatory. It is unacceptable to me to say X, Y, Z. And then you document that document. What do you mean by document? You need to put place, where did it happen, what was said, who said it to you, and then be aware if there's anyone else around you, right? You don't have to go ask them anything. You just know who's in the room with you, and you document. That's yours. When I documented, I had a password protected document on my computer, and then I would write my documentation on that document. I just kept the long, running form. It was always password protected, and then I would email it to myself every so often. I will say this, that I've worked in a corporate headquarters where I sat down in the corporate headquarters and I would look at everybody else's computer because I would sit with my IT guy. So be aware, people, be smart about it. There are some corporations that do. They can sit in IT and they can see what you're writing and what you're doing and every single thing else. So it may not, if that's your company, you may not need to do that on the work computer. You may need to do that on your own personal cell phone. If you're on their Wi-Fi, please disconnect from the Wi-Fi, put it on your own cellular power, and then that's where you document. You have to be smart about it, right? Because these are your documentations. No one else needs to know until you're ready to take it to the next level. Okay. And if it were me and I've had this conversation with management, I will come back to my desk and sit down and say, memorandum for record. Mr. Such and such, VP, director, whoever it was that said whatever, I'm just, reiterating, I thank you for talking to me today. And, sometimes it is very nerve-wracking to have to tell people when, you've committed this microaggression against me, but I want to be sure that we have great understanding. Here's what you said. Here's how it made me feel, demeaning, racist, discriminatory, whatever that is. And, I said to you, it's unacceptable to say that to me. So I just want to be sure we understand each other, and zing that email. Ding, right? Because most management wants, you got to pretty much do that one time, and most management will know what you're doing. Most people, I've seen some people who really don't have a clue what you're doing. They keep doing stupid things and saying stupid things. And so you keep sending the same email. As you said, I spoke to you. Here's what we spoke about. And that is a way that you're covered. So if you have to go above your manager's head, or if you in the United States, you got to go to the EOC because there's an ism and there's something that they've done, be it racism, sexism, ageism, someone's spoken, discriminated against you because of your religion, your sexual orientation, then, you can go to EOC if you think you have a complaint. What I typically tell my folks to do when I coach them is I coach them to go see an attorney if they can afford it. You can find someone who's going to give you a consultation. Go see the attorney first to see how good your case is or not, right? But I do know this for a fact, that, in the UK, in the US, and Canada, you have to tell your employer what the issue is first. So you can't just collect all this documentation and never tell anybody that, this is a microaggression, this is unacceptable. You can't do that, at least for the United States. You cannot keep it all secret and then jump up to the EOC and make a complaint. It doesn't work like that. They're going to ask you, when did you notify the employer? How long have they had it? X, Y, Z, because there are dates and times to all. So if you think you've been discriminated against because of consistent and persistent microaggressions, you do have to speak of it. It's just like with sexual harassment. You have to say, this is harassing to me because of this. If this behavior is unacceptable, please stop. Whatever you say, you got to say it first. The person has to know that, this is unacceptable behavior towards you. Then if it keeps on, you can figure out what your company says you got to do, whether it's HR, your supervisor, or whether, someone has an open door policy, you can go to the president and whoever else, right? So you do have to know your company's policies. And that's one of the things that I have on my list as well. Document was number one. And you have to know your company's policy. If there isn't an open door policy, and it's your supervisor and you have a president, but there's like layers of people in between. If there isn't an open door policy, you're not going to win points and influence with anybody by skipping all of those people and going straight to the top. In the moment, it may make you feel pretty good, but at the end of the day, you didn't adhere to policy. And I've seen people get tagged on that solely because they didn't adhere to policy. Okay. So you do need to follow that policy, whatever your workplace has. All right. Also, you need to have support. If you trust people in your workplace, great, right? If you have allies, great. If not, have a support system somewhere. You do need support because when people do that racial gaslighting and microaggressions, they go, oh, that's not how I meant it. You're imagining things and I don't know why you're so sensitive and stop being so sensitive. And it can actually cause you to step back and doubt yourself for a minute. Like, is that it? So when you have a support team there with you, you can bring these issues up, be it an affinity group, an employee resource group, and even if you have an employee assistance program, and most large employers do, you can go speak to someone on EAP to talk about that. And so Brittany says, you're so right. I'm now at the EOC. Yes. So absolutely. You the paper trail, you tell the person and you document that stuff. You tell your supervisor, you document that. And also I'd love to send to my supervisor too. Hey, sir, miss, madam, whatever you call them, Mr. Whomever, Bob, Susan, Shakita, whoever it is. We spoke about this today and I'll let you know that this was unacceptable, blah, blah, blah. That paper trail. Keep that paper trail. Now, when I sent the email off, I would go in and get the sent email and send that to myself at home. So and I got to go back and erase stuff. I have stuff from like 20 years, but I'm a documenter. I got that from my parents, right? So I told you I was going to be fanning because I have all these lights on me. So there you go. I'm fanning. All right. So other things that you need to be aware of. We got advocates in the workplace, your support team. Seek professional help. That is part of what I do as a career coach. And that's the difference. When you get a culturally sensitive career coach, we can help you with these things. So we're not just about helping you find another career, although we do that. We're also helping you navigate these things so you don't feel like you're doing it by yourself. I get folks that come in and they're being managed out, right? And they've had folks practice these microaggressions. I was like, ooh, slow your roll. Wait a minute on that being managed out. You may have a case. So when you come to, again, a culturally sensitive career coach, these are the things that we can help you with. That's why an investment in the career coach is so important. All right. And another thing that you need to do is establish boundaries. So it is hard when someone practices a microaggression against you. You ha ha ha, ki, and then you say, that's unacceptable. And then the next time they do it, you ha ha ha, ki. People are confused. You want to set those boundaries. And that's where this is unacceptable. That's a boundary. And I've had to say that to people. This is unacceptable because that's a boundary. Right. And so do establish those boundaries. Boundaries are made to protect you, not the other person. They may get up in their feelings. It's okay. You're up in your feelings about the microaggressions they keep practicing against you. So let them be up in their feelings. That's fine. But set your boundary. Communicate your boundaries. It is very crucial to do that. You call it out, hey, you, and I actually left the job because after I got my doctoral degree, and I was down south and get a little southern lesson here. So down south, it's well known. It's well known that you cannot ask someone, or you should not ask someone to call them by their first name. That's an invitation, right? And it is very much comes from time of old when Black folks had to call Ms. and Mr., Master, and all that kind of stuff, but Black folk were called by their first name. So it's unspoken and it's kind of spoken. It's all mixed up in there. And so I had folks that were asking me, I introduced myself. If I introduce myself as Dr. Carter or Dr. Twanna, I've told you how I want you to address me. It's very clear. Can I call you by your first name? It's Dr. Last name Carter. And so I had folks that started calling me, hey, you, because they refuse to, honor the respect that I've worked hard enough to get a PhD, to get this doctoral degree. They refuse to honor that. But with, white physicians and they were cool. Dr. such and such. Oh, got you. So I ended up leaving that job because I was like, we're not doing this. I'm not gonna operate with people like this. Not saying it might be the best decision for you, maybe not, but for me it was. I had to say we're not doing this, right? But it's about setting boundaries. It's all about setting boundaries, right? I talked about knowing your rights. It's important to know your rights and your company policy because you should have rights. Most companies do, whether or not they follow them, that's a whole different thing. But if they are not following them, that's why I say, I'm all about asking for a consultation for an attorney whose practice is this, right? Someone who's used to suing for car accidents. If they don't know this, then I wouldn't do that. Get someone who is well versed in this, because when you get to a point where you think you're being discriminated against, you only have an X amount of days, right? And I'm not even going to call off the days because I don't want to mix anything up. But your numbers, as soon as you experience a microaggression, you have X amount of time to report it before you can even do anything with the EOC. You have to give your organization time to fix it first. So if you're going to contact an attorney, get someone who knows what they're talking about, right? Also, you have to practice in self-care, because experiencing microaggressions week in and week out on your job, and for some folks year in and year out, years in and years out, it is stressful. It causes stress, hypertension, diabetes, arthritis, fibromyalgia. Those are all autoimmune diseases. Some of those are autoimmune diseases that is caused by stress. So self-care is important. Engage in those activities that take you down 1,000. Spend time with your people. Find your peak. Spend time. Make sure you're rejuvenating emotionally, spiritually, physically, right? All of that's important. Okay. And then, if all else fails, remember that there's a support team. Follow your resources, use those resources, use people. If you know that you have the kind of work environment that you cannot trust folks, then you go outside. Go outside, right? But again, if you're in the United States, you have to attend, because before you can do an EOC complaint, you got so many days to report it, and your company has so many days, and it's very much regimented by those days. Okay. So don't keep sitting there feeding into the anger, because I've seen people do that. And then so finally one day, someone, the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, and they just blow up, and people are going, I don't know why they're so angry. I just don't understand what's wrong with them. And it's like all these microaggressions year after year. Now you don't know what's wrong with them. So before you get to that point, just get a coach. Get a coach, or if you think you've been discriminated against, contact an attorney who is well versed in that field. Okay. So I do have a guide, to how to handle, microaggressions in the workplace, because I get it. Some folks are like, I've been on this job 2 months. I got rent due. I have mortgage due. I have car payment. I had to take care of kids. And so we become afraid to speak up. I will say that over time, stress causes a lot of autoimmune diseases. So you have to make that decision. Your health is more important than any job, because if you die of a heart attack, who's going to take care of your mortgage, your family, your kids, or anything else, right? And so that is a part of what I do. Again, as a culturally competent career coach, I help you maneuver this, right? And for some folks, I've just recommended, I know you don't want to leave the job, but everything that's going on in your life right now, this job is really hurting you. And they'll go and out, because I'll say, hey, you got to see your physician, you take care of that medical stuff, because I don't do that in coaching. But then their doctors will often tell them, you need a new job. You need to, I've had folks say, doctors told them, it's the new job or die. So don't let yourself get there. There's plenty of resources before you get to that point. So if you like a guide to healing, to handling microaggressions in the workplace, just drop guide in the comments and I'll reach out to you and get that to you. All right. So I know this was a little bit longer today, but it is a serious topic because I have so many folks that are coming in and they're angry and they're hurt and sometimes enraged because they're tired of microaggressions. And so this is a way to deal with it, right? And this is a way that can deal with it, help you keep your sanity and to help you help yourself. All right. So I do appreciate you for hanging in there until the end. I appreciate the comments and the feedback. And I do want to say that I'm doing a series this month, right? An entire series on this, and some of you may have seen the press release, but for the month of August, I'm actually doing an empowerment in the modern workplace, building confidence, resilience, and success, right? Because these things are the things that will get under your skin and work against you over time. And no one deserves to live with microaggressions. No one. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter why. Be it sexual orientation, religion, your race, your gender. No one deserves to live with microaggressions. Okay. So I have a LinkedIn user that said, yes, stress at work calls clinically isolated. Yes, it's not worth it. Yeah, I've seen people, develop diseases and it's because of stress over time. It's a whole stress process. I might have to come in and do another thing on stress and why it is so detrimental to us. But yes, microaggressions are a form of stress. Discrimination is stressful and it does break your body down. Okay, so I do thank you again for tuning in, for being here with me. Stay empowered, stay informed, and take care. And I'll see you here next week. And next week's topic is thriving amidst toxicity. Unleashing your unique strengths and skills. Identify toxic situations is what we'll be doing. Safeguard your well-being and harnessing your unique talents to succeed. So next week, thriving in toxicity is what we're talking about. So I'll see you here the same time. And I'm going to keep it honest. Instagram, I'm going to come back and do it again and figure out, I think we did it this time. And so I do appreciate everybody for being here. I've had some folks reach out to me recently. Thank you so much for the feedback. So I have a LinkedIn user says, thank you, great live. So I've had folks to reach out to me recently because microaggression has elevated anxiety and they're having problems at work. So yes, I do anxiety coaching. I know that my premier program is Power Principles, Command Your Career Without Sacrificing Your Life or Your Work-Life Balance. But I also offer anxiety coaching, and we do address how to handle microaggressions in that. So my premier coaching program is Power and Principles. It's a 6-month program. If you want to see me for anxiety coaching, that is actually a 3-month program. So if you want either of those two, drop anxiety in the comments and I'll reach out to you about that, get you set up with that 30-minute career solution call. And so Kay Levi says, we need your doctor says, thank you for your time. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it for everybody that hung in there. This is so important. Got another question here. So I wonder if we as travel nurses in Allied Health have rights in filling in hospital. Oh, absolutely. Discrimination, and let me speak for the United States. So I know that the UK and Canada has discrimination lawsuit because I was doing the research while I was praying for this, but I can speak more to United States because that's what I know about. But we call them the isms: racism, sexism, ageism, discrimination. Any of that is against the law. It doesn't matter whether you're traveling at the hospital is against the law. And there's this little thing that says a lot of people don't know is your organization. If the organization discriminates against you, they're wrong. If your organization allows discrimination to happen against you, they are still wrong. So yes, you still have rights, right? If you're being discriminated against, you still have rights. And you'll have to look at your contract to see how you handle it. What's the protocol, right? How do they say you're supposed to do it? Who's your first line that you speak to? And then the next, and the next, and then the next. So you still have to look at, know your rights along that. But yes, if if your organization discriminates against you, that's against the law. But if they allow workers and if they allow employees to discriminate, that's wrong too. I used to work at the V hospital, and it's mainly men, of course, and they'll try you. They tried me, and I was just very clear. I will file discrimination against you. I will file against you, even though you're a patient. I'm here to serve you because you're a veteran. Yes, I have no problems, right? Why? Because the hospital had to protect me as an employee against discrimination, just like the hospital had to protect the patient, the veteran, against discrimination, right? And so I have someone that says we are experiencing a lot of issues with racism and microaggressions. The staff are terrible, and it is men more than women. So yes, you can't discriminate. That's against the law, right? Again, read your contract and see how you're supposed to go about. It's chain of command for me because I'm in the military, right? That's what I know. What is a chain of command that you need to do? So the first thing you do need to do is document what's going on. And you have to have the conversation. You said X. It is discriminatory, demeaning, whatever it is to me. And it's unacceptable behavior to me, right? And I'm saying to me because there are some folks in the workplace, and I've looked over at them and scratched my head like, really? They will take that kind of abuse. Once I got hit toward my 40s into my 50s, I'm not putting up that nonsense. But I get it. Younger people are more apt to do that. And people who like, I got 3 kids at the house, they're more apt to, and people will take advantage of that. So you speak for you. Speak for you first. And sometimes when you do that, you will give other folks the confidence to also say, yeah, you can't speak like that to me either. All right. But speak for you. So you have to let the perpetrator know, right? And obviously, this is microaggressions. The overt stuff, come on, document this stuff, figure out who your chain of command is, what you got to go through, and keep it moving. Microaggressions are a little bit different because they can pull I didn't know that. Again, you're not arguing on their intent. You're arguing on, here's what you said, here's how I received that. This is why it's unacceptable to say that to me. Document. If you don't have a paper trail, it's very difficult to move forward. You have to document, right? And again, be careful where you're documenting. I've always done it in a Word document on my laptop. But again, I have sat and looked at, and next to IT folks who are looking at people play solitaire and all the other things. And so they can look. So you need to know your organization. And I think maybe you're having these kind of problems on your phone, is best to document so that it's yours. But you do need to document. Place, where were you? What time was it? What was the date? Right? And who said what? You were there, but who else is standing around? Oftentimes people are standing around, but they are afraid to say something. People get afraid to speak up, right? And I get it because I was once like that, but just write the names down, because I know when I used to do investigations on the job that I wrote, that I used to have, I had to write up, go in and get complaints, and I had to go and investigate. We talk to everybody separately, and the truth always comes out. Even when people try to get together and hide and whatnot, the truth always comes out. So you just need to be able to say, this person was in the room. If they're going to lie, they're going to lie, and they're going to say, hey, there was cameras. You were in the room. Why are you lying? So you let them, investigators, whoever, deal with that. But you just need to know who was nearby, who was a witness, right? You don't have to go to them. You don't have to ask them to say this or anything. You just write who was there. You keep your paper trail going. A pattern always shows. And when EOC comes out, and really you can Google. I coach my ladies before, you go work for someone, just Google EOC complaint on this company, right? Just Google it. And if there's an EOC complaint out there, you can read it. And maybe sometimes Google a couple of those. Sometimes they're lengthy, but read it. They'll tell you what they did, how they did, and how it unfolds. It is documentation that gets it proven. You know, have enough documentation is hard, right? It's a lot harder, but still, and I'll say it again, get an attorney who's well versed in this. You can go to eoc.org and or eoc.gov, and you can read what it takes to file. You need to know the deadlines and need to know what you need to do in the order that you have to do it in. Again, I'm not well versed. I've never worked for EOC. I've seen a lot of it. I've worked with folks. I've coached them to do these things, but I am not the expert. I'm not an attorney here, so I don't give legal advice. That's why I say get an attorney who knows what he or she is talking about. Okay. So his purpose for me says, this is good information. I have documented everything. Thank you. You are quite welcome. Look, if you're a documenter, that's half the battle. It's hard sometimes to get people to document. And without document, you know, people will get very angry, but your document can't be spotty. And you never know. That's why I say it's a good thing to go on Google EOC complaint against your organization to see how many other people have complained against them. You'd be surprised. And if there are other people who have complained, look, just call them up. Yeah, what did you do? What was out? Okay, gotcha. Look, just call, right? It's easier. I knew someone, company had just settled like a lawsuit, and literally less than 3 months discriminating against this person. And they're like, oh, okay. Went and got the same attorney. The attorney was like, oh, I can do this in my sleep. Let's go. And the person got paid because the organization was wrong. Have you ever had someone file a training order, limited contact? So I don't get into that one. That's a legal thing, and it's a state by state thing. I've done a lot of research on it because I had a client who got caught up in this. But I will not give any advice other than see an attorney who's well versed in this, because state by state it is different. So I have never, yes, I take that back. I have actually filed one. I take that back. I have actually. So, but I don't give advice on that. You need to seek legal help. And I will say, if you're working for a company that has EAP services, they're already paid for, you can get legal services through an EAP. They will give you 1, 2, or 3. Some of them give you 1, some 2 sessions with an attorney. It's not very many, but if you have an EAP and it doesn't go back to your employer, so you don't have to worry about that piece of it, right? Because you're not, unless you sign for them to know, they're not going to know. But that's a great way to get an attorney without having to pay a lot of money for it, and at least seek advice, right? I'm just saying, you know, I would say ask them to be upfront. Like, I know that you're not here to help me file a lawsuit against the company because, you know, the company is where they're getting paid from, but I just need your advice on what I should do or what I shouldn't do, or what does this sound like, right? And I have told quite a few people to go to their EAPs and talk about divorce and stuff like that, because I don't do that. That's outside of my expertise. Some of you know that I am a licensed therapist. I am, so I, you know, and as well as a professional certified coach. But the things that are outside of my expertise in my wheelhouse, I'm not going to get into it, because that's the best advice. See the expert. I'm an advice on my stuff. The expert is advice on their stuff. All right. And no problems. Do I have any other questions out there before I hop off? I really do appreciate you all staying until the end, because this was, oh my gosh, we're almost at an hour, like 54, 60 minutes. Yeah, 56 minutes. So appreciate it. See you back here next Wednesday, and take care. Bye-bye.